Hello goddesses, I hope you are well. This video contains a few things. So this is the introduction where I'm going to tell you about what it contains, just so you know this is the first bit. The second bit is a summary of what we did in the development circle. So for those of you who missed the development circle on Wednesday evening, you can review this and still go ahead and do your oracle reading and holding an object to see if you can receive any insight or guidance. And even if you were at the circle and it's something that you want to go back to or practice more with the objects, then that section of the video is a reminder for you to do that. The last section will be, I'll go through the messages that I got for the whole group for this moon cycle for the next 2 weeks in a little bit more detail than I did last night. It was a little bit I did it a little bit rushed last night because that wasn't the focus, it was more the development circle that was focus. And the message is going to be really straightforward because, as you know, we'd got ascended masters, you know, everyone from the otherworldly was turning up to help us. So here we go, and we'll start with the summary of the development circle. So for September 2024, because the development circle and the full moon happened on the same day, which was the first time in our history, our 3 years, I think that's happened, we had a mashup. So I asked the participants to bring an oracle with them. So choose an oracle for yourself, and when you're doing that, don't overthink it. If you have more than one oracle deck or tarot deck, just close your eyes, ask the universe which one would help you at this point, and see if an image just comes to your mind's eye, or the words, you know, of the name of the oracle deck flow through your mind. Or if you can, just stand in front of them, look at them, reach out and see where your hand goes to. In fact, you can do that with your eyes closed as well. You don't necessarily have to look at it to do that. So don't overthink choosing an oracle, just choose what you're feeling. And the next thing to do, the next thing that we did in the development circle, was to consider something that you wanted to find out more information about for this next couple of weeks moon cycle. And it was things such as relationship, friendship, work, a situation that you're in now, or something in life in general that you just wanted to know some more about. And I drafted some questions that you could use for each of those topics. And what I always say is those are a starter. If you're stuck with what to ask, and if something in a question I've drafted resonates with you, feel free to use that. That's what they're here for, and that's how we learn. But if you want to tweak them and adapt them, I absolutely encourage you to do that as well. So you'll see the questions with this email that contains the videos as well. And it was a case of just having the quiet time of shuffling the cards, shuffling your deck, and choosing, asking the question, and then choosing a message. Now, you can shuffle in between every question if you want to. You don't have to. I generally don't do a shuffle. I just do that and just move a few cards at a time underneath. So there's different cards that come up. But when I choose a card, I rarely take one from the top. I split the deck, put the top part underneath, and then choose that one. So you can do whatever calls to you. So that's what we did. And then, as usual, we shared our messages with one another to hear thoughts, observations, and insights from other people. So I encourage you to do that for yourself this weekend, or when you have some quiet time. If you're going to do a reading for yourself of 3 or more messages, don't do it in a rush. Like on a morning, you may pick out a message for yourself in between doing other things just to help ground you for the day or help you prepare for the day ahead. But for something like this, you know, give yourself half an hour. Clearly, we didn't have that each last night, but give yourself, you know, a bit more time and as much as you can to do that. And when you've done it, you may want to journal. You may want to write down the questions in your notebook, and rather than going straight to the guidebook, when you journal, just make a few notes about when you saw the message on that card, when you saw the words or found out what the words were, what feeling did that give you? Because remember, it's always about the feeling that we get. So you can journal that, and then when you'll look at each message individually, and then when you look at them collectively, you may see themes in terms of what appears in the images. There may be a pattern. What appears in terms of the words, there may be a pattern there too. And if you don't, that's okay, but it's just something to always have a look at when you look at the whole reading. Now, I suggested last night up to 3 questions and 3 messages. You can do more, you can go up to 5. Now, I know I do more in the oracle reading, that's because I'm doing it for us as a circle and group. If you want to do more, you can, but I think when I read to myself, I wouldn't do any more than 6 usually, and it's probably about 3 to 5. I like 3 messages, 3 questions. That's probably as much as I can handle, but I have done more, and you have to trust your own judgment here. So if 3 messages leaves you feeling, oh, I'm going to have to process and think about what all this means, then don't do any more. Allow time for that to process. And then if you have some clarification questions or want to ask, tell me more about what that means, then you've got the opportunity to do that later. So that was the first part of what we did. The second part was taking an object and holding it. But before you do that, make sure to take some deep breaths, clear your mind as best you can, and make sure it's an object or something that has meaning for you. We had a variety of different objects that people used in the development circle on Wednesday. A photo in a small photo frame, an ornament, a crystal, kind of like a soft toy animal. It could be anything, and you don't have to use the same object all the time. The purpose of holding this object is just another way to see if intuition can reach you and if that's the way that works for you. So when you hold your object, and I'm going to use this one as an example, this is what's called, I've dropped it, this is what's called a temple string bracelet. It's made of red string with some black and gold coloured beads, and it has a little silver round disc on it with some Sanskrit wording that says wisdom, and it's got some little tassels as well, and it kind of works like a slider bracelet, so it's easy to put on. This has meaning for me because when I went to Sri Lanka for my 50th birthday many years ago now, I did visit a lot of Buddhist temples and Buddhist sites, and I went to one that was in the middle of a stretch of water, isolated on its own, and no one lived on the island, although lots of visitors went. And my guide took me into the monastery, and we met the Buddhist monk who lived there. And in Buddhist tradition, monks take a string, put it around your wrist and tighten a knot, and as they do that, they bless you. So you keep the string for as long as you can with the blessing, and I kept mine for a very long time, but as you can imagine, they get quite grubby because it is just a piece of regular string. So I found these recently, and this temple string bracelet really spoke to me. So this has become something that really has meaning for me because it takes me back to that time of quiet and solitude when the Buddhist monk gave me a blessing. So talking about it has brought me into that place of peacefulness and serenity. I'm holding it. I have it looped over my index finger, and I've got the bracelet between my 2 palms. That's just naturally how that has happened. So take your deep breaths. Allow your mind to become as clear as it can be. And hold your object in whatever way that suits you. It might be between the palms, it might just be in one hand. If your object fits in one hand and that feels comfortable, that's okay. As you hold your object and clear your mind, just notice if a feeling comes to you, or a physical sensation, or a thought just flies into your head and it comes out of nowhere. So what I get when I've just done this now with my hands clasped together over this bracelet is, it's all okay. And gosh, yeah, that really helps me today. It's all okay. And that's really good wisdom, isn't it? It's all okay. And I intellectually know that, but even I need a reminder every now and then because I'm human. So instead of doing an oracle message every day for yourself or every other day, however often you do it, you could start your day, or before you start a piece of work, before you open the laptop, before you go on a journey or do something. You could do this. So the purpose of the intuition circle is to learn more about intuition, and this is just another way to see if you can access your intuition in a different way. Now, you may also do this with an oracle message. So if you get a particular oracle message that just really resonates with you, it gives you hope, it just gives you a feeling of, oh gosh, I needed to know that. You can also put the oracle or tarot card in between your hands. And just as we've done now with this object, just breathe and see what else comes up. So it's just another way to invite intuition and the otherworldly to give you insights. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that's helpful. And if you do that and you have any questions or you get some insight that you're not too sure about, you can always get in touch, let me know, and we can have a chat. And remember, don't second guess it. Don't think, oh, well, this came up, but what if? No second guessing, no what if. Whatever comes up is relevant for you. Okay, thanks for watching. This is the final part of this video, and it's the messages that I read last night for the circle. So I'm going to start with the first two messages, which were really interesting, and they were sensitivity and strength and freedom. And I shuffled the deck, but sensitivity and strength is number 3, and freedom is number 4, so it's interesting that they wanted to be together. The sensitivity and strength message is really interesting. There is a stump of a tree in a woodland, and it looks like the wood or the trees around it has formed into an arch in the background, slightly covering it. And on the tree trunk, you know, when you get those, you can just see the slivers of the mushroom or the fungi that are on the tree trunk. We can see some of those. And sat on top of the tree trunk is an anvil, a steel heavy anvil, and just hovering above that anvil is a white feather. It's just hovering, it's just still above the anvil, and it's just under the arch of the trees that we can see. So sensitivity and strength. Now, here's an interesting question. So when I say anvil and feather, sensitivity and strength, what item do you pair sensitivity with? Do you say it's the feather? Or what item do you say for strength? Is it the anvil? I'm thinking it's the other way around in this one. Strength is really from the feather. Sensitivity is about the anvil. If an anvil was hot and you touched it, you'd burn, you'd feel really sensitive. You know, it has a sharp point at the end. It's used for making and repairing shoes, so it has to be sensitive to the material, or it's sensitive to the material that's put over it. So I think the anvil actually represents sensitivity, because when we're sensitive about something, we lock ourselves down, we get grounded in a probably not a very good place, and we don't want to move, or we make it very difficult for people to emotionally or psychologically move us. So for me, the anvil represents that sensitivity of, oh, I'm staying here, I'm not moving, feeling really sensitive about this, and I'm not comfortable. And the strength is the feather. The feather represents spirituality, the otherworldly. It has that meaning to it these days, doesn't it? And that is where the strength comes from. The strength doesn't come from being tough like iron or steel, or being immovable or solid. Strength comes from being flexible like a feather, going through life lightly, allowing yourself to be blown the way you need to go, with the ebb and the flow. And it's hard to be broken. Feather is quite hard to break. So there is strength that comes from being flexible and going with the wind. That doesn't mean we're airy-fairy. It doesn't mean where you can't commit and can't see things through. It just means we're following where we need to be for our own spiritual strength. That's my interpretation. I love that message. And what came out immediately after that was freedom, which says moving on and letting go. Now, freedom's a wonderful word, isn't it? So take a deep breath. Freedom. When I say freedom, what comes up to you? Is it freedom not to work? Is it freedom to do what you want? And what does it mean to do what you want? Is it the freedom to get in the car and go away on a whim? Is it freedom to help people as and when you can? Just what freedom means for you. But quite often we think of freedom as actions, which is how I've just described them. But this is about freedom of the conscious mind. It's about freedom of the soul. It's about being free to trust and be sensitive and be strong in a spiritual way. And the image on this card is we see a stone arch, an elder worlder type stone arch. And through the arch there's a blue sky with lots of clouds. And we can't see where it's hanging from, but we assume it's hanging from the top of the arch somewhere. There's a chain that has a twisted branch or leaf around it. And on that chain is an old-fashioned wire bird cage. It's not a square shape, it's kind of like a dome at the tops and straight sides. And there's a butterfly resting on that cage. And the cage door is open. And we see the bird flying away. I see the bird flying away. It's freedom. That door has been open and it looks like what could be a white dove has flapped its wings up and it is out and away. Freedom is the choice to find the beliefs that work for you and to live with them. Freedom is to live a grounded, balanced and centered life. And freedom is to do it our way. It's the freedom to make mistakes, get things wrong, try again, get up, do it again, do it another way. And freedom to love and freedom to be happy. We think we've got to work for all those things and we don't. They're just there for the taking if we allow ourselves to feel free. Moving on and letting go. Freedom. And then the next messages, I'm not going to go into the images and all the details because it's not about the images of the messages. It's about the fact that we had 4 messages that were pretty much saying the same thing. So the third message I pulled out was prophets and ancient seers. And on the card it says decisions, predictive guidance. And this card has kind of like a witchy quality to it because the image is of a woman, a young woman dressed in a purple cloak. It's got green piping around the edges and she's putting her hand into the cauldron. So prophets and ancient seers back in very mystical times, they looked into water, they looked into the crystal balls which are made of glass, they looked into mirrors, they looked into things that were going to give them a reflection back about something that they could feel, sense or see. So decisions and predictive guidance is about, you may find the messages that you get from the otherworldly being more directive in the next couple of weeks as we move to the new moon. Instead of doing something and checking in with the universe or doing something and seeing how it works, you may find you get guidance from your own readings and also from kind of maybe holding your own objects as well, from your own connection with the universe, that something very specific comes through for you. So this is truly a message about the otherworldly and listening more deeply to the messages. And because I wasn't keen on that image, I asked the universe for more guidance. And yeah, what did we get? We got Ascended Masters. So you can see the theme, prophets and ancient seers, and we have Ascended Masters, who are devoted spirits with specific intentions. So we can see the theme, 2 themes, the otherworldly, from the past and ancient times. So I'll call it the ancient otherworldly. Decisions, predictive guidance, and specific intentions. So it feels like if you felt like you're at the top of a funnel trying things out, and you know a funnel comes inwards and then it gets much thinner, it's kind of that thin bit. The intentions and the guidance is going to get very specific from the Ascended Masters. And Ascended Masters are people like Jesus, Buddha, the saints, St. Teresa. I personally think Mary Magdalene would be an Ascended Master. So Gandhi could even be an Ascended Master. So it's all those people that we've learned about through history. Tend not to be myth, they tend to be real individuals who had real lives, are the Ascended Masters. But again, those people are in the otherworldly, they're in spirit. So as for another one, and just to complete that set, we got ancestors. And the ancestors is about historical connections and purposes. So if you're getting decisions and predictive guidance and some specific intentions, but they're different perhaps to what you had already been doing, it may be that there's a twist or a change in purpose that's coming through in your life. It may not be a big one. It may be just something that you tune up, but it could be a big one. So don't read into the fact that this is going to be something big and life-altering. It will be life-altering, but it might not necessarily be big. It might be a tuning up or a tidying up of something that you're doing, and you just get the guidance of how to really polish it and kind of see it through. And the ancestors could be, the ancestors are, there's two levels. There's those who are in your immediate family. So the great grandparents, the great-great-great-grandparents, and back it goes. All those people are in your ancestral lineage. But then there's also the ancestors we have as women, the ancestral lineage of being a woman. So it works on a number of levels. But again, like the prophets and the ancient seers, like the Ascended Masters, the ancestors are about the otherworldly, and how much support is available to you from the otherworldly right now. So I asked for another message just to see, and it finishes this section with shamanic healer, cleansing and attunement. So in case you are still not believing or undecided about the prophets and seers, the Ascended Masters and the ancestors, the shamanic healer says yes, attunement. So the shamanic healing is a sign that all those entities from the otherworldly are bringing that guidance for healing. So it might be the breaking of a cycle of something in your personal life for you that's part of your family conditioning. It might be the breaking of a cycle in your work to be different, to allow your spiritual self to come through. You may not do it as overtly or teach it like I do, but you allow the peacefulness of your spirit to be seen and for people to see you like that. So cleansing and attunement is really important in this section. I talk about being in tune or tuning in with, but attunement feels a balance. It feels like you're already there and you continue to be there. When you tune in, it's kind of like you're making not an effort, but you're taking a step to do that. Whereas attunement, my shoulders went back then, and I sat back, my shoulders went back and my back went straight. It opens up that whole space around my chest area. So when you have attunement, it's there with you all the time. So let's be attuned. Let's be attuned to what's going on. And after 4 messages that said the same thing, just in case I wasn't getting it, or we weren't getting it, I just asked for a final message that could help us, and it was soulful appreciation. And the words are heartfelt gratitude. And what we have on this is we have a little seesaw resting on a stone wall, and there's some trees in the background. And it's really interesting. So on one side of the seesaw is a butterfly. On the other side are 6 piles of coins at various levels. And behind it there is a semicircle with a line that points to what the weight would be. So you would expect the coins to be heavier than the butterfly, but on this scale it is not. The butterfly, which represents transformation, and in this message represents soulful appreciation and heartfelt gratitude, is heavier than the coins. So isn't that interesting? You know, we may be grateful for the money we have in our life, but actually what's even more important is the soulful appreciation and the heartfelt gratitude for our loved ones, the people around us, and the soulful appreciation of those people who help us every day. So I'm going to end with my soulful appreciation to you, my heartfelt gratitude for being part of this amazing circle, for moving it forward, for allowing me to learn and grow, and for you to be able to do the same. Thank you. Have a wonderful next couple of weeks as we move from the full moon towards the new moon. And we start to wane a little bit, but make the most of the energy of the full moon now, and make the most of the ancestors, the prophets and the seers, the ascended masters, and the attunement that we have to the otherworldly. Take care.